Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Kim Santos if you're new, and today's video is an eyebrow stencil tutorial. So I'm going to be kind of giving you tips or just letting you know how I fill in my eyebrows with eyebrow stencils. Now I have two different types. This one that is currently in my hand, it is definitely your typical eyebrow stencil. It has the shape of the eyebrow punched out into a hole and just you throw it on your brow like that. And then there's also another type of eyebrow stencil that I discovered, and it is this one. So pretty much this is the eyebrow stencil you hold underneath your brow. It doesn't have the hole where you would fill in. It's a little bit different than the classic eyebrow stencil. So these are two different types. I'm going to show you how they work on either eyebrow and kind of just talk to you about these stencils, if they work, if they're really good, and show you how I use them. But before I get into this tutorial, if you're not subscribed to my channel, hit the subscribe button and let's just get right into this video. Okay, so the first set of stencils, I've narrowed it down to, out of the pack of like 40, I narrowed it down to these two. I wanted to find something that would help sharpen my shape of my brow, but it wouldn't be a completely different brow shape because that would be hard to make it look natural. I kind of wish they were a little bit more arched and not as curved, but they will work with the pack that I got for these types of stencils. So these types of stencils are the ones like you pop out the shape of the eyebrow and then you put it over your whole brow. So you're kind of supposed to fill it in. Compared to the other one, which is kind of like it traces out the shape of it, you actually don't have that hole to fill in your brow. So what I'm gonna do first is see where I want my brow to be mapped out. So right now, here's the shape of my brow. And do you see that line right in the middle? That's where we want our arch to be. So this looks like a good shape for me that's gonna help me have a nice brow. So I'm just gonna zoom you in and we're gonna get started with this brow stencil. So like I showed you guys before, I kind of mapped it out. When you're placing the stencil, you don't have to put it straight onto your brow because that would look awkward. You wanna move it around to where your brow falls. And you can use whatever products you like. I'm going to be using my Dip Brow by Anastasia Beverly Hills because that's what I normally use. So I'm just lining it up here. Kind of want to hold it underneath your brow, especially when you're about to go in on the bottom. So I'm just outlining it right here. And now I'm moving it where the arch was down. And now I kind of angled it so it matches my natural brow shape, but still follows the stencil. So that's what I have so far. I like to do this piece by piece instead of just filling in the whole brow because it's gonna look more natural that way. And now we're gonna go in the top of the brow. So I'm gonna put that angle right there again. And go with the Dip Brow. And you wanna press the stencil as close to your skin as possible so you don't have any mess ups. And see, if you had thin brows, this is where you would kind of make the little tick marks, just like little lines to mimic your brow hairs and help fill them in while using the stencil. Still using those light little strokes. So that is after I used the stencil. Now I have like a line right here where the beginning of my brow starts. I want to make that look very natural. So it's going to be the lightest to the darkest. This is going to be an ombre effect for your brows. It gives it a more natural hair-like finish. So I'm just going to take what's left over on my brush and go up. Just to connect that line. And kind of push up the product as well with my finger. That kind of helps to make the line not look as intense. And then after, once you have the complete shape of your brow, if you want to go in, shape it out a little bit more. My arch is not as defined as I usually like it because the stencil was a little bit more curved. So I'll go back and kind of give it more of an arch, just like that. And then now I'm going to go in with MAC's Soft Ochre Paint Pot and I'm going to clean up the underneath of the brow. And then I'll go in and clean the top of the brow as well. especially the sides where the tail is. And then quickly, I'm gonna put some brow gel in my brows to keep them in the same position and they won't fly away later on in the day. I always like to push them up in the front, and then when I go towards the tail, to the side. So I have this brow on using this type of stencil, and now I'm going to move on to the other side using a different type of stencil that's more of a tracer than an actual full-blown stencil. Now this is just my personal preference. I like these stencils way more compared to these ones. This could be because I have thick, coarse brows that don't need too much work filling in and more shaping. So this one really helps to shape, and you can manipulate the shape better than you can with these ones, and it's just a little bit easier to use. These ones, you kind of have to apply pressure throughout the whole area, and if you move the stencil in one area, it kind of ruins the whole brow. This one, you can move along with it just because you're working with one part of the brow at a time. So I would be doing the underneath, and then I would be working on the top instead of trying to do everything all at once. So this brow stencil I actually have in my hand is from Benefit. It comes in their Ka-Brow kit. This one is more of a tracer for the underneath of your brow, and then you'll bring it up again. Like the previous brow stencil, it has a line marking where your brow arch is to help you line up the stencil with your brow. Now with this stencil, you want to go underneath the brow. So I'm going to line it up with my natural arch and kind of keep it as close as I can to my eyebrow hairs where they start. So instead of going over here, I'm going to put it right up to where my brow hairs start. So now I'm just going to draw the line for the underneath of the brow. Only working on that line just to shape it out. So I'm just kind of doing little strokes at a time just so we can get a good outline. And I'm going to do it all the way from the start of the brow to the tail. And then also if you want, you can do little hair strokes up from that line too here to start to fill in the brow. But I'm just gonna go back in and do that later. I'm going to remove the stencil, and that is what I should have right there underneath this line. I like the shape of this stencil compared to this one just because the arch looks higher. So now that I've done the underneath of the brow, I need to match it to the top. So you're gonna take the same stencil and move it to the top of the brow and mimic that same shape. So I want it to be an arch, and I'm gonna match it up with my natural arch, and I'm going to lightly outline the top of my brow the same shape as the stencil. Oh, and if you make a mistake, you can always wipe it away. All the way down to the tail. Then you're gonna lift it up, and that's kind of given me a shape already for my brow. So then now I would just go back in and kind of see where the lines are connected and further fill them in. Just use little hair-like strokes. I think I've said that 10 times, but no better way to describe that. The stencils are easy to use. You just kind of have to manipulate it to your own brow shape. I'm just gonna spoolie that as well. I find the brow stencils very helpful for me because I always find the underneath of the brow to be such a difficult part when filling in my eyebrows. Both sides look pretty good. So now that I'm done filling in this brow, I'm pretty happy with it, but I'm gonna go back in and clean it once again like I did with this brow. So I'm just gonna start to do that. So now that I've completed my brows with both stencils, I'm going to finish the rest of my makeup and come back. So I have finished my whole face. I did all my makeup, And my final thoughts on these eyebrow stencils. I definitely like this one more than the fill-in, like the little cutout one, just because I feel like I have more control when I use this one than this one. That also could be because I have thick eyebrow hairs. I need help with my eyebrows, like underneath shaping them, not really necessarily to fill them in. But anyways guys, that concludes the eyebrow stencil tutorial. I hope you found it helpful and kind of learned the different types of stencils that are out there and how to use them. I appreciate it so much. Thank you for watching, and like always, sub it if you love it. I will see you in the next one. Goodbye. If you have, oh my gosh, that looks so silly. I hate taking thumbnails so much. The amount of foundation on this is not cute. This darker hair makes me look so pale. Like I'm feeling like Snow White. Not just because I sleep all the time, but like it looks healthier now. What's up, hair? Was she wearing a weave or a wig? Nah, this is all me. Don't try me, it's all me. Butthole lips.